I'm Donna Blanchard, and this is your ThinkTech Daily News for Wednesday, May 13th, 2015. An Amtrak train derailed in Philadelphia early today, killing at least 7 people and injuring more than 200. Black boxes containing recorded data of the train's movement were recovered and are now being studied for information. The Vatican announced today that it has concluded a treaty to recognize Palestinian statehood. The Palestine Liberation Organization declared independence in 1988 as a government in exile. It claimed the West Bank and Gaza Strip and designated Jerusalem as its capital, areas that had been occupied by Israel since 1967. At the 1993 Oslo Accords, Israel acknowledged the PLO negotiating team as representing the Palestinian people in return for the PLO's recognition that Israel had a right to exist in peace and that the PLO would reject violence and terrorism. But in 2007, the Hamas, a militant Palestinian branch, rejected that peaceful agreement and occupied the Gaza Strip. In 2011, the two fractions of Palestine signed an agreement of reconciliation, and in June of last year finally formed a unity government. The United Nations currently recognizes the state of Palestine as a non-member observer state, which is an upgrade from the previous designation of observer entity. During a visit to the Holy Land last year, Pope Francis made explicit reference to the state of Palestine. This new treaty to recognize Palestinian statehood is largely symbolic, but still significant, as it adds greatly to the legitimacy of Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas' interest in Israeli-occupied Palestinian territories, and that includes Christian holy sites. A senior Israeli foreign minister official said Israel was disappointed to hear about the Vatican's use of the term state in this new treaty, and that this step does not advance the peace process and pushes the Palestinian leadership further away from returning to a direct and bilateral negotiation. He added that Israel will study the agreement and consider its next steps accordingly. The Iraqi government reported today that the second-in-command of the Islamic State has been killed in an airstrike carried out by the American-led coalition in northern Iraq. American officials are not confirming this yet. Iraq's Ministry of Defense said the militant leader known as Abu al-Afari was killed in a strike near the northern city of Tel Afar. The United States Central Command acknowledged that airstrikes were conducted against the Islamic State, also known as ISIS or ISIL, near Tel Afar yesterday and today, but could not verify the government's claim. The Defense Ministry said that Mr. al-Afari and several other leaders had gathered in a mosque. Then they showed aerial footage of a building being blown up. U.S. Central Command denies that the airstrikes have been conducted against any mosques. As Greece, Italy, and Malta are deluged with migrants fleeing persecution and dangerous civil unrest in northern Africa, the European Union is working on 2 fronts. The first to stop perilous human trafficking, and the second to dilute the volume of refugees landing in southern European ports. But before a quota system for absorbing refugees by members of the EU was even formally proposed, Britain, Ireland, Denmark, and the Czech Republic already signaled opposition to it. A separate plan discussed to curtail the trafficking includes the use of military force to destroy vessels before they leave North Africa. European Union leaders are expected to decide in June on a plan for quotas, which calls for the 28 member states to take in as many refugees as their size and economic circumstances permit. And they'd better hurry up. Warmer weather makes the Mediterranean more navigable, and the flow of refugees is expected to rise. After a 10-year court battle, letters sent from Prince Charles to British ministers were released to the public today. Though the monarchy has no official sway over the government of the UK, it turns out that Prince Charles has been quite knowledgeable on affairs of organic agriculture, historic preservation, herbal medicines, and armed forces, and had very politely urged Prime Minister Tony Blair to make decisions based on that knowledge. Mr. Blair did respond in line with the prince's civility, but often made the monarch wait up to a month for a reply, and it's difficult to ascertain whether those letters had any impact on government policy. In light of the court's decision to release the letters, it's doubtful the prince will be writing any more letters, but the Queen does continue her regular private in-person meetings with the Prime Minister. Ahui ho, everyone. Donna Blanchard, ThinkTech Daily News.